I welcome you on behalf of iSmartRecruit again in the second session of iSmart Recruitment Gurus. Today, with us, we have Michelle Vanich, who represents CM Mining from South Africa, right? And the topic today we are going to discuss is the importance of corporate branding, right? And also the candidate experience, especially in the post-COVID scenario, right? Michelle comes with a long experience in the recruitment domain, right? Is leading the specific department of renewable energy and mining at CA Mining in South Africa. He is really passionate about what he does, helping people, assisting corporate teams find a crucial role in just as satisfying finding the candidate the perfect role as well, right? So he is a perfect match between the candidates and the corporates, right? So he'll share his experience, his knowledge today with all of us, right? So without any further ado, I'll give the mic to Michelle to just give us more information about himself, and we can start with the discussion.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks for that introduction. Yes, I'm Mitchell Vernick, representing CA Mining. We're a leading recruitment firm based in sunny Cape Town. We have been fortunate enough to be operating since 2007. At that stage, mining was our focus. We had a very, very strong niche with finding international mining skills and bringing them to remote mining sites across Africa. Obviously, some regions in Africa and in the world can't always have the exact high-level experience or skills or qualifications needed to operate in like really big production environments. When you're creating billion-dollar projects, it's paramount to have the right skills. So that's how we started bringing in expat mining skills into these different sectors. And eventually, about 2015, we were actually purchased by a listed organization on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So our resources grew exponentially, and then we decided to expand into oil and gas and renewable energy and construction and specialty chemicals, and really sort of expanded our focus from just expat mining into expat and local mining and energy across Africa, Middle East, Europe, and we've done some work in Australia. We're focusing our efforts now on developing the South American markets. So we've really got a great global scope from our offices here in Cape Town. Myself, I'm a failed accountant. I like to call myself a failed accountant. So I got into the accounting game thinking that that was going to be my passion. However, I quickly realized that staring at an Excel sheet for days on end was not too fun. So I decided to give up reliable numbers for unreliable people. So that's it's a trade I'm happy to make, although it does have its ups and downs, of course. And that now I'm here. It's been almost 5 years now in the recruitment game. I've been fortunate enough to hit the ground running and to sort of have quite a knack for it. And at this moment, I'm leading the renewable energy department, as well as still handling quite a bit of mining. So that's been fantastic for me. Definitely found my passion, as you mentioned, Jay, in terms of having a passion for helping people. I think you're going to be hard pressed to be successful in recruitment if you're not getting something out of helping people.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much for that introduction, Michelle. Right, so yes, quickly jumping on to the main topic for today, right? So first of all, right, almost all the recruiters would be working for some or the other organizations, right? But their perspective always seems to be limited to what they are doing, right? They generally are not able to understand the larger picture, right? So that's why today's topic is very important because what the recruiters are doing impacts the corporate employer branding as well, right? And what they do with the candidate also defines in some or the other way the corporate brand, right? So what for you is corporate branding, right? What are the factors which are very important?
Look, I think depending on what angle you're taking or what situation you're describing, corporate employer branding can mean different things. For me, I would first of all start this discussion by saying that I am fully aware, as so is most people in the world, if they've been part of recruitment processes, that recruiters can have quite a terrible name sometimes. And that's my first step at how I tackle this is how do I not be one of the many recruiters that are strengthening this bad name of ours who are not treating people as they should, right? So that's my first thing, because if we can get that right, and if we can treat people the way they want to get treated, both from a client and a candidate perspective, then we're really getting this candidate and a client experience correct. So for me, first of all, I want to be the best recruiter I can, and then I'm able to look at employer branding. Okay, if I'm performing my job correctly, how can I ensure that the companies and clients that I'm dealing with are fully trusting of the candidates that we deal with? And how are the candidates fully trusting that the roles and the clients and the projects and the operations that we deal with are what they want to be involved with as well? So recruitment is all about being a middleman, right? So how do you effectively be a middleman? You ensure that your clients trust you, and you ensure that your candidates trust you. And for me, that is a big part of branding, is trust. It's not about having a flashy logo. It's not about having the coolest videos on LinkedIn showing your culture. It's in fact trust. That's why you go and buy your the same product that you always buy, the same washing liquid that you always buy. You trust that washing liquid because it's always there for you, taking away the greasy dirt off your dishes, and you know it will. And you're not going to go and get the cheaper brand, most likely, or the brand that you don't know, because you're not sure if you're going to have sparkly clean dishes afterwards, just like the one that you trust. So for me, that's what employer branding is in our situation in recruitment. It's creating trust. And there's various ways that we can do that, right? So, for example, if you were in a process with a recruitment agent, and they told you that there is a mining company in South Africa that they have this vacancy for, and you're perfect for it, and we spend 10 minutes talking about this, just 10 minutes talking about this, and then I go, hey, I think you're perfect for the job. What is that candidate thinking? 10 minutes and you already really think that I'm perfect for the job. Okay, well, you're either fantastic at your job, or you're not telling the full truth. So now immediately the candidate's experience is lagging a little bit because you didn't put the required effort into it. So they're immediately going, is this the recruitment process for this mining company? Is this what the small hoop that people have had to jump over to actually try and be a part of this organization? Is this organization as strong as I thought it was going to be if their recruitment processes are not as high as they should be? Because that's how companies grow, right? That's how companies become who they are, by good recruitment strategies, bringing on the right people to drive that company, bringing on the right people who are not doing the wrong or unethical thing to tarnish your name. You know, these are all big things, and it can start there, especially for strategically minded candidates. They know what makes companies tick. You know, not everybody sees that bad interaction and goes, oh, okay, this is indicative of something bigger. But a commercially and strategic minded person might go, well, if this is point one, if they've got 10 years of bad recruitment coming up into this, of bad hires, there's going to be legacy issues here. Do I want to be a part of this? Is this employer got the right brand? Maybe not. And I'm using a very weak example there in terms of a shortened interview process. But let's talk about not replying or not getting any feedback from when you thought you were going to get feedback. Right. Having an interview that keeps on getting rescheduled because the hiring team, for some reason, can't keep their calendar up to date, et cetera, et cetera. All of these small little niggles that maybe in a different market where there's not enough work to go around, candidates will go, it's fine. I'll take this on the chin. But when we look at a market now where in-demand candidates are really driving growth left, right, and center, and companies want them, they want them on board. These guys are going to pick and choose the interactions that they have. They're going to pick and choose the experiences that they have. Same as they're going to remember. I remember that company who had this great team of recruiters working for them. These recruiters knew everything about this company, which means that the company was able to relay that information to the recruiters effectively. Every time I had an interview, we were able to go and have an interview at no later than 5 minutes, no longer than 5 minutes late from our meeting. When they promised me that they were going to get me some documentation next week, Monday, they gave it to me on Friday afternoon. These all creates really positive impressions on a candidate, and can often be the difference between wanting to join a company and not wanting to, or half wanting to join a company, but if something better comes along, then maybe I'll jump ship and jump onto there. And it seems like small factors, small micro aggressions or micro transactions that are happening between in the small ecosystem, but they're really powerful. They really are. I mean, I obviously chat to candidates every single day, and all of them have horror stories. They all have these stories of how they were in the trenches in these processes, didn't know what was going on, had no preparation and no assistance, knew that there was a job spec, but knew nothing about who their boss was going to be, what that company was going to be like, what is the growth plan of the company, what is the growth plan of this role. And so this is what ties into employer branding and candidate experience for me. I like to consider myself, for example, I don't believe I've seen this anywhere, so I think this is of my own idea, is to say that I am an extension of my clients. I'm the arm of a client. A client is reaching out for talent and bringing in that talent. So if I corrupt that arm, if I don't use that arm effectively, when that person gets brought back into here, there's going to be issues. If I'm a legitimate extension of the arm of the client, and I'm able to nurture that candidate into the clients, both parties are happy. And there's a lot of ways that you can do that. Transparency for me is a massive one. Branding, we talk about this word branding. Branding is not the shiny logo, although that can help. Don't get me wrong. If you see a job spec that is beautifully done, great pictures on it, great, it's laid out really nicely, flourishing words, of course you're going to be a little bit more interested. Are you still going to be interested when you don't get a reply for a week? Maybe not. So for me, corporate employer branding, as it pertains to recruitment, is being able to being as a client, to be able to represent yourself with you not being there, which is exactly what we're doing. The client is not there when we're having these chats with candidates. They're not there when we're giving the candidate information and, for lack of a better word, holding their hand and walking them through into this opportunity. The client's not there. Same as I'm not there for my candidate when they're sitting in an interview and they're having that discussion. So for me, corporate employer branding is branding yourself and keeping your reputation as high as possible right from the beginning of the recruitment process. If I'm going to be a bad recruiter, if I am going to treat candidates badly, how many of those candidates think this is a bad recruitment firm and that's where their thought process stops? Yeah. No. They might go, this is a bad recruitment firm. But also, I don't want to work for that company if they're using this bad recruitment firm. So your name, recruitment firms, as much as there are thousands and millions out there, and it doesn't take much to start one. You don't need to be a rocket scientist to start a recruitment firm and to bring in work. But to make those relationships last and to create a genuine and positive interaction and image of all three parties is a skill. And that's what at least we try to do, and CA Mining tries to do to the utmost ability is be that middleman that's making everyone look as good as possible. That's making sure that the candidate's brand is flag is waving high, just like the clients.
Perfect. Thank you, Michelle, for this detailed explanation about what is corporate branding, right? You talked about one interesting point, like the candidates are picking and choosing, right? So, I mean, 3 to 4 years back, the scenarios were different. Then pandemic came, and right now, right? So, these are three different phases that we are seeing, right? And it is very interesting to understand from you, right? What changes you have seen in the last 2 to 3 years, how candidates have they empowered, or the corporates are still having the upper hand? How is it right now?
Sure. So yeah, as you say, three different stages: pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, right? So pre-COVID, I think the whole world was still quite busy, but there wasn't these what happened during COVID. Let's rephrase that. Pre-COVID, the world is normal. It's how we remembered it, right? Then COVID came, mass reductions in staff, retrenchments, projects being lost, projects being discontinued, huge amounts of people on the workforce, not enough work to go around. Was employer and corporate branding very important during this stage? Not really. Didn't mean that we stopped trying to push this. It just meant that I could probably treat you quite badly as a candidate, but you don't have a job, and there's not enough jobs to go around. There's one job for every 3 candidates who are looking for a job. They're not going to have the power that they did post-COVID now. Post-COVID comes, everybody's trying to rebuild their teams. People realize that they can work from home. People realize they don't have to be in the office from Monday to Saturday or work 10-hour days in the office. People know that they can work remotely for some other international company and still sit in their local country and not now work for that local company. They know that as well. People have realize the importance of entrepreneurship in terms of being able to provide for yourself. People have realized the fact that we can be just as productive whilst working from home as we can in the office. So anyone with an outdated traditional model in terms of you have to be in the office are actually struggling often now in terms of, depending on what niche you're in. I mean, IT and tech is quite a big one in terms of people who like to work from home more often than not, right? So obviously your production environment's a bit different. But yeah, so we've had these 3 stages. Most importantly, now we're talking about post-COVID. Right, so now, as I mentioned, companies struggled in the second stage there during COVID. So did candidates. Both people were struggling, but the companies did have the power. When there was a vacancy, they had hundreds of applications because everyone's looking for work. Right. Now, post-COVID, you have all of these factors that came into play. But what you do have is the world getting back into the economy rising again, the commodity cycle, commodity booms that we see, gold prices, lithium prices, battery metals, everything just going through the roof, because now industry is getting back into it, and the world goes on, right? All these restrictions that were in play are now gone. So now we have a case where there is a lot of industry happening across the world, whether you want to call it industry within IT or industry within mining or renewable energy. There's more things being developed and being built and going on in the world than there ever has been before. And now, whilst all these companies try and rebuild their teams, what's happened? A lot of those strong candidates that companies said goodbye to, they've gone and started their own company or joined a new company or have left the market and started their own business instead of a commercial company. Whatever it might have been, it's now at a stage where companies have these projects that they are trying, and project teams that they're trying to fill, and regions that they're trying to grow. And suddenly the candidates are turning around and going, okay, well, what can you give me? Because we're in a very different situation that we were in 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I applied for the role and you didn't get back to me, or you said things aren't going to work. So what did I do? I went and joined that other company. And now it's a knock-on effect, because now they say, hey, why don't you leave that company and come back to us? And we'll offer you 50% more. But what does that other company want to do? No, well, we'll offer you a little bit more as well. And it becomes this bidding war between strong candidates. And I think that lasted a few months before companies realized, okay, we don't have this much money that we can just carry on counter offering every single candidate that comes through. But regardless, these strong skills are just so in demand, because companies need growth drivers. Not only growth drivers, but once you see that growth, you've got now production that needs to increase. You've got operations that need to increase. You've got a whole, open new offices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you bring these growth drivers in, and then the company grows. And now all of a sudden, what has happened, there are more jobs than there ever were before, and slightly less candidates that are perfect fits. And the candidates that are perfect fits are not as interested as they normally would have been. So that's why all of this corporate employer branding is so important. And you might have even had companies who did not ensure that their corporate branding was up to scratch during the second COVID period, during mid-COVID, and angered and irritated some people that might not want to join them again. And I'll give you an example. It's slightly out of recruitment, but there was a lot of ruffled feathers from the restructuring that companies had. Jay, if you were to get restructured, if you were to get, if you were to, what's the term, Jay? Restructured, retrenched, sorry. If you were to get retrenched, Jay, and your current employer turns to you and says, sorry, Jay, we can't keep you on anymore. Sorry, you're going to have to fend for yourself. And then in 2 years' time, they come back and say, hey, Jay, things are looking a bit better now. Don't you want to come back on board? What are you going to say?
No, not at all. Yeah.
You're probably going to say, I found something else. No, thank you. Or that trust is not there anymore. Or, I don't feel like giving you a second chance. These things have happened. Often you've had a lot of people who are like one company people, right? Like they just would stay at one company their entire career and love it. And these through this massive trauma of COVID, a lot of these things changed. So important. It was as much as it's important now post COVID, it was still important in the middle of COVID, and a lot of companies are suffering from that. But if you're wanting to get the right talent in, you're going to have to get your employer branding and talent attraction and candidate experience up there. For example, again, I like using small examples because maybe it's just a bit more relatable, but let's say that during COVID, a hiring manager could miss 3 interviews with a candidate, and the candidate would still be there for the 4th interview. If you're missing 2 interviews now, you are not going to get a 3rd chance with that candidate. That's just how it works now. Guys are getting, sorry, I keep using the term guys, of course, I mean women as well, male and female, are getting messages left, right, and center from people like me. Hey, are you interested in this? Hey, are you interested in this? Hey, are you interested in this? So much so that even when you're reaching out, when you're phoning people, when you're messaging them, when you're going for coffee with them, it's not just a case of, hey, are you in the market? You've got to really target that person. You've really got to say, hey, I think there's a reason why I'm contacting you. You're seriously could be perfect for this. And I know that you're looking for, more exposure into the commercial side of things. And therefore, this would be really great for you. It's not just jumping ship for jumping ship's sake. So yeah, I mean, it's really important to get these candidate experience down and the employer branding so that you're not creating a bad image for yourself for now and for the future. Because what if this market becomes even worse for companies, and they're having to dig even deeper to try to find the right candidates, and now they've been not getting their employer branding right during COVID and post-COVID, and they've had 5 years of creating bad relationships across the job market. It's not gonna do well for them. And I think this is something that's really important for recruitment agencies. I don't think that there's a big enough focus placed on this. There's so much focus as recruitment firms to just purely find the right person. But what about all that work and relationships and branding that I've been doing, for example, when I've spoken to 100 candidates, told 100 candidates about how great your company is, about the amazing growth plan that you guys have got, how they would be a perfect fit in there, and then afterwards still gave them the correct debrief after they weren't successful, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Suddenly they would go, they'd feel like they know this company. They feel like as soon as they did get a chance with this company, that they'd want to take it because of the strong, positive process that they've had so far with this. This relatable person, this recruiter, who's been able to see both sides of the table and give me this awesome summary and hold my hand through that process. Wow, that company knows what they're doing. I want to be a part of that company. Maybe I can't, but hey, my friend, I've heard about this company. Maybe you should go and look at that vacancy. I think you would be a good fit. And I think that there's not enough focus placed on power of recruitment firms to push that talent attraction agenda. And not only just talent attraction, but just purely on your own corporate image. Your corporate image
amongst a huge point amongst. Regarding. Yeah, that's a very big point that you touched upon here for the candidate experience itself, right? As you are the drivers for that, right? As a recruiter, not just for your own agency, but also for the corporates that you're working for, right? And also, like there are different factors. A couple of factors you have already talked about, right? How you talk to the candidates, how you represent your organization, how you represent and map the qualities between the job description and the capability of the candidate. But also technology comes into picture as well, right? So a lot of ATSs, like of course, like us, right? And who brings in and helps to create that good level of candidate experience, right? So how you see technology helping you with that as well?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting one because there's different angles to look at it. You know, I think there's been a lot of I've seen a lot of negative opinions of ATSs, for example, where there can be quite a lot of frustration from the candidate side that they feel like they are not dealing with somebody and they're putting their profile into an artificial intelligence that then decides whether they would be suitable or not, or whether they even get to a hiring manager's eyes. And I get that. I do get that especially because the truth is that not everyone creates a CV equally, and just because somebody has a terrible CV doesn't mean that they are not the right candidate. And unfortunately, they are the ones that are going to suffer with an ATS system because, if they've created an extremely basic CV that's not hitting the points, then that AI is going to struggle to understand that. At the same time, as a recruiter, when you have 1,000 applications for one role, and I need to go through all of it, is it not for the greater good that 1,000 candidates were shrunken to a more manageable and a manageable size that is purely the people who are hitting those keywords, who have the right experience, who are working for the right companies, who have the right qualifications, so that I can give those people a bit more time to consider their profiles. So yes, in terms of a candidate experience with ATS tracking, there's going to be the one side where if you don't work hard to make sure your CV is how it should look, you are going to suffer with an ATS. If your CV, according to your profile, is as detailed as it should be, then that ATS shouldn't have a problem, because that ATS is programmed to the recruiter's needs. It's to the recruiter's requirements. The ATS isn't just thumb sucking and saying you're a good candidate or you aren't. It's based on parameters that are set by the recruiters or the hiring managers. Yeah. On the other side, you can be getting a better experience with the ATS because the more filtered that talent pool becomes, the more time that a recruiter or hiring manager can spend on your suitable profile versus skipping through non-suitable profiles.
Absolutely.
That's my
Absolutely.
opinion of the ATS. Yeah.
No, definitely. I mean, there are a lot of debates happening regarding, of course, AI, automated matching, right? But what we always believe is, of course, these are just sidekicks, right? The recruiter is the main hero who actually interacts with the candidates and try to find out whether it is the right match or not, right? Technology can always assist, right? It can't be the mainstream thing when it comes to identifying and talking to the right people and putting them in front of the right people as well. Right. So definitely, right. That's a very valid point that we discussed. Right. So I guess we have covered a lot of things regarding corporate branding, candidate experience, and of course the technology touching upon it. So thank you, Mitchell, for your time today. It was really great interacting with you, and I'm sure all our audiences will find it very knowledgeable. Thank you for your time. Thank you,
Absolute
everyone.
pleasure, Jay. Thanks, Nikita.
Thank you, Michelle.